The Eastern Ukraine Question is the fourth in a long series of espionage novels which I, James Ward, wrote between 2011 and 2021 under the collective heading Tales of MI7. This is one of a number of videos in which I'll attempt to describe those novels. The book split into three groups, the third and largest of which has a single protagonist called John Mordred, whom the Eastern Ukraine Question introduces. In 2014, which is when the narrative takes place, he's just turned 28. My overall aim for this series, which sharpened as it developed, was to review the concerns of contemporary Britain. That meant Mordred couldn't be a typical secret agent, rather he had to be a kind of everyman. Of course, in real life, there are no everymen. People always have idiosyncrasies. Luckily, I just heard about the American professor Jeffrey Arnott's year 2000 theory of emerging adulthood, and I thought it might help me create a quintessentially modern character. Arnott identified a period between the ages of 20 and 29 when many young people, I think he probably had millennials and their successors in mind, don't own property, can't might be a better word, don't have children, and are still in a process of psychological and moral growth. For anyone interested in finding out more, Wikipedia has a very good article. John Mordred comes from a large family, 2 living parents and 4 sisters, to whom he's deeply attached and from whom he's inherited a strong set of values. He has a unique flair for languages, which is why MI7 recruited him. In terms of temperament, he's intense, vaguely religious in the sense of thinking this life isn't all there is, given to flights of wild imagination, and except where moral concerns are at stake, disinclined to take life seriously. All of which might sound disadvantageous in a secret agent, but almost by accident it's the opposite, because it makes him indifferent to danger. He's not only courageous, but sometimes reckless. He's a little over 6 foot tall, with blonde curly hair, and like a lot of young people nowadays, he's not quite sure how secure his job is, or where he'll be in 6 months' time. He's far from being a cynic, but neither is he naive enough to think MI7 owes him a living, or that the British security services remotely care about him. Despite the novel's title, none of the story occurs in Ukraine. Mostly, it's not even set in Europe. Rather, it takes place in a Siberian province on the Chinese-Russian border called Primorsky Krai. A group of Russian oligarchs plans to foment ethnic unrest there as a way of goading China into making territorial claims, ideally such as will mirror Russia's claims to Ukraine. The aim is to undermine Mr. Putin. MI7 has an interest in destabilizing the Russian leader, but it doesn't want to get too involved. It will, however, send a number of observers to the region, including Mordred. Unfortunately, it quickly becomes clear that the oligarchs aren't entirely trustworthy. Some sort of presence in Primorsky still seems advisable, but perhaps on MI7's own terms. The same agents are thus inserted covertly into the region to report on events on the ground. But then they start disappearing. It turns out that the oligarchs have sold their plan. It's a piece of intellectual property after all, and selling it gets them off the hook if things should go wrong, to one of their own, a man called Viktor Ulyanov, who sees it as a route to personal and political aggrandizement. Anyway, Mordred's now 7,000 miles from home in hostile territory, and of course it transpires that his presence isn't so secret anymore. What about his colleagues? Assuming he can even find them, how can he negotiate their safe exit from the country? Or they negotiate his? And how far should stopping Viktor Ulyanov take precedence over that? If you want to find out how one millennial might solve those problems, it's in here. In some ways, the Eastern Ukraine Question resembles the Kramsky case insofar as it's a scene setter rather than an ideas novel. I spend a lot of time introducing the characters that recur in the remaining books, not only Mordred's ongoing fellow agents, but also his 4 sisters. The only significant big idea is explicitly taken from Peter O'Bourne's 2008, The Triumph of the Political Class, but that book has a lot more impact on the next installment of the series, The Social Magus. Anyway, there we are. That was the Eastern Ukraine Question. If you've made it this far, thank you for watching.